Greetings from Chicagoland. You're listening to Munira's Musings, where your host Munira will showcase new guests each week to share exciting details about the journey to their niches. As we like to say, the riches are in the niches. And on this show, we'll share ideas on how to break through our invisible boundaries so we can start taking steps towards our dreams and create the life that we most desire. If you're passionate about impacting lives, then this podcast will give you some great ideas and equip you with the tools to quickly grow your business. Okay, let's get started with today's show. Here's your host, Munira.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira from Munira's Musings, the Niche Navigator, coming to you live with another storyteller, another author, another guest who is going to rock your world. Today we have Sue Emeny here with us. She's an author, a software engineer, and with a great story. Sue, welcome to Munira's Musings.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Thank you. So we all have gone through life because we have sickness, we have happiness, we have death in the family, and we have a lot of things that go on apart from our business. But how do you just keep going on? Sue has a very compelling story. But let me tell you that we bring these stories to you and we bring the journeys of people into their niche because we know that there are people out there who are thinking about, I'm going to do this one day, but one day doesn't always happen. We need you to do it today. So let's have your dreams come true. Let's listen to what Sue has to say. Sue, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, obviously my name is Sue. I'm 73. When I was about 3, doctors told my mother I wouldn't make it until 12. I'd like to say that I defeated those doctors. My kidneys have been leaking protein since the day I was born, which ultimately caused them to fail when I was 61. Then I had to go on dialysis, and I was told what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, and it was a bunch of confusing lists. I was scared. I thought I had to give up pasta, my favorite food I grew up with, and I started to cry. My husband came and said, "What's wrong?" And I says, "I can't eat anything because the lists conflicted with each other." I said, I don't know what to eat. I was in tears. And he said, "Well, what about the USDA's food database?" I had forgotten all about it. We had this thick book from the 1970s. And I said, it had to have been updated by now. And turned out they'd gone online, and that was the answer. All I had to do was go through it, use my engineering experience, research and development, and we figured out how to follow a kidney diet, how to be able to eat the foods that I liked, not as much as I'd like, but I could eat them. And with a little more research, I learned how to thrive with failed kidneys.
Okay, so for our guests, this is a different niche we're talking about because you've done something excellent about this, right? You've
Yes.
taken this a step longer. This is a story where we know we have to go through the pitfalls and we have to go through trials and tribulations. So they've told you this. What does it mean? Tell me a little bit about what does it mean that your kidneys are leaking protein? And why is that something that we all need to take care of?
Okay. Your kidneys are basically filters. They do a lot of things, but one of the big things they do is filter out toxins, excess vitamins, minerals, whatever you would take in that maybe your body needs, but you took too much of. So it filters it out as urine. Well, when I say leaky, what it really means is that it's letting protein go through that it shouldn't, and your body needs protein. So, and that protein going through, because it's a large molecule, causes scarring in the kidney. And over the years, the scarring causes the kidneys to fail.
Okay, so that's important. But from the time that they diagnosed you till the time your kidneys failed, was that something, were there any diet restrictions? Was that were you exempt from doing normal people stuff?
The only thing I was ever told was to limit my salt intake. And these days, they tell people differently. Now they say there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, and stage 5 is you're done. But I never even heard that until I was on dialysis. This is how it has changed so rapidly in recent years. But in my youth, my adult life, until I was about 61, no one ever said anything about the stages. They never told me to limit my potassium, to limit my phosphorus. By the way, I was not diabetic, so I didn't have to worry about sugar, but I did have to worry about sodium, phosphorus, potassium, and but they didn't tell me that prior to that. If you're stage 3 or 4, now they will tell you to watch that, and that's because the kidneys can no longer filter out those levels like they used to.
So this is important, and this is very close to heart for me because my husband also was diagnosed with kidney disease, and from the time he was diagnosed and from the time he was on dialysis, it was less than a year, and he just gave up his life. I mean, he gave up. I think he gave up. I don't know. Maybe it was time. I don't know. But sometimes it brings solace to me that he just gave up. But I know that he was going to dialysis 3 times a week. He had to do that. And because of his diabetic condition that he had, his kidneys got to a point where they just couldn't function and they needed dialysis. So I understand that. So this is also close to home. But you took all of this to one step forward. You took it to a point where you did some research. You took your training and you found all of the things. Now, was it just one resource that you said you used the USDA's book and website to find all of these resources?
No, the USDA has a food database there where they tell you could look up a specific food and it will tell you the nutritional values, how much sodium, how much phosphorus, etc. I used that heavily, but I did a lot of other research at various authority websites like the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic, of various sites. There's some other groups out there that do education. So there's a nonprofit, Home Dialysis Central is an excellent site for education. And Home Dialyzers United is another excellent site for advocacy. So I did a lot of research at different places. And I started my own group and site as well, because everybody talks about dialysis or they talk about diet, but they do not talk about their relationship and how one affects the other. And that is the crucial element that is missing. And I discovered that by trial and error and the hard way, understanding, well, my labs are good. What happens is every month you have blood draw, and they test the value of the levels of phosphorus, potassium, sodium, and a few other things in your blood. Well, my labs were coming back perfect because I was watching my diet. But then they said, but I felt like crap. So to get the answer, I finally said to my doctor, if my labs are so good, why do I feel so bad? And it stopped him dead in his tracks as he was going out the door. And he turned around, and together we figured it out. There was a lot more give and take, but we figured it out. And there is a definite relationship. He altered my dialysis prescription to match the way I was eating. If you take off too much too fast, you're just going to feel horrible, tired, fatigued, crampy, a whole bunches of things. But yes, the internet was my friend.
I like that. So you had one doctor who listened to you. So do you think that the protocol out there for dialysis is not catered to everybody, but they just use a cookie cutter approach for everybody out there?
Absolutely, they do. If you do not talk to your doctor, tell him what you're doing, tell him how you're eating, you are going to get a one-size-fits-all dialysis prescription. And there's many people out there who just don't care. When I had to be in center for a little while because my fistula did not work. And it's grueling. It really is. And the other thing that when you go in center, you cannot, every center is different. And in my case, they would not let you take off too much fluid. I was fortunate. I had been in the hospital with an systemic infection, and that particular hospital pumped me full of IV fluid. So I put on 20 pounds of fluid because the kidneys don't work, you don't get rid of it. So I went into dialysis and I said, just take it all off. Well, they wouldn't do it. And thank God they didn't, because I would have probably died from it. They would not take more than 3 liters at a time. That's maybe 4 quarts. I don't know. I can't do that translation in my head. But if you take too much off too fast, your body, your organs are stunned, and that just shortens their lifespan. Makes you feel awful. So I totally lost track of where I was going with this. What was the question again?
So cookie cutter dialysis option.
Oh, yeah. So what I wanted to say was that a lot of times, and I've seen this with some of the groups, people will complain, well, I had 7 liters that I had to take off. And then I felt horrible when they did it. Well, they should never have done it. In the first place, dialysis can only remove fluid from your blood. It's the only place it can get it. But fluid stores in your skin cells and you're all over. So if you try to take off, you only have 5-6 liters of blood in the first place. So how in the world can you get 7 liters of water? You can't.
So you are squeezed dry, drier than a sponge, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
You're dehydrated.
I understand. And so you've gone through a lot, but now this newfound knowledge is now equipped you to do what?
Oh, I was able to thrive. I went on home dialysis where I could control the machine settings. I could set the time, when and how. And because I had such a good relationship with my doctors, they trusted me. And pretty much, I always told them what I was doing. If I wanted to change something, I told them I was going to do it. And they were always fine with it. In fact, one doctor said, I don't care what you do, just don't get me fired. But that is because they trusted me and I trusted them. Mutual trust is so important. Dialyzing at home, whether it be peritoneal or hemodialysis, it doesn't matter. Either one is great. You do it at home, you are so much better because you can do it more frequently and slower.
Okay. So I see that you have a book out there in the back, and
Yes.
you said you started a group. Are your people in the group are people who are on dialysis? Tell us a little bit about that group, and then we can go to the book.
The group is called Dialysis Newbies. It's on Facebook, and it's for people who are newly diagnosed with kidney failure, and they are scared. They think their life is over. They don't know what to eat. One of the things I ask when they join is, what do you need help with now? And almost everybody says menus, recipes, how to eat, what to eat, because it is not explained clearly. So that's the big thing there. And that's why I focus on the diet. And I try to tell people about the relationship between diet and dialysis.
So your book, you've written 2 books now. One of
Yes.
them is your story about this, and the other is just about, tell us a little bit about the other book.
Okay. I don't know if you can see the other book or not. It's called Diet Dialysis, and it's basically all about the mistakes that you can make, or that I made, and how to fix it. And then the recipe book, I put all the recipes in. I took everything we ate. We modified the recipes a little bit, or at least most of them, not all of them. And I created some software so I can evaluate a recipe. So for instance, if I made meatloaf, I can know how much potassium, phosphorus, and sodium is in the meatloaf. And if I eat a serving of, say, 3 ounces, you convert that to milligrams, or grams, but it will tell you exactly how much is in your serving size, which is important. And all those recipes with a serving size are in there. And one of the things that is missing in just about every recipe I have ever seen is, what is a serving size? Most recipe books say, serve 6. Okay. What does 1 serving weigh? I don't know. What's the whole recipe weigh? Well, I'd have to weigh the whole recipe and then go divide it by however much. No, that's just nuts. And they also don't give you phosphorus. Some do, some don't. Others, I've never seen one tell you how much water is in it. And one of the things you have to be careful of is how much water you take. The more water you drink or eat in your food, the more that has to come off in dialysis. So these recipes take care of all that. They tell you all of that, which I've never seen anywhere else.
So you're taking this newfound knowledge and putting it all together, packaging it in a book. What is your plan to do with this knowledge, with packages? Are you teaching just the people in your group? Are you taking it to dialysis centers?
Ultimately, I want to go to the dialysis center dietitians, but I'm just personally not ready to do that just yet. It is something I'm thinking about. I am in the process of creating a course. I'm just finishing it up. I have to record it yet. That's pretty much it. That explains much of what I talked about today, and then much more. Details how to follow the diet, how to eat, not what to eat. So that's my plan. I really wanted to talk about dialysis to other people, but they don't seem to have the interest. So I focus on the diet, and while I'm doing that, I tell them about how it relates to dialysis.
So this recipe book, I have this question. This recipe book talks to people on dialysis. If people like me who do not have diabetes or don't have kidney disease and are not on dialysis, how can it help me Can I use the book, and what's going to be the benefit?
For a normally healthy person, of course, you can use the recipes. We still use those recipes. And the benefit would be, you'd know your caloric intake, your fiber. I give you 10 nutrients, and which includes the standard things most everybody watches. But the biggest thing I think that most people need to worry about is calories and salt. Food is, especially in restaurants, is incredibly salty. Salt affects your blood pressure. So the normal person would probably want to pay attention to their sodium and their calories, fiber, and how did my hand get up? Fiber and fat.
Fat.
So if you're doing a weight loss diet, you're covered. You're golden.
Okay. All right. So, you know what? It's just not for the diabetics out there. It's for everybody who is looking to eat healthy, right? And
Yes.
salt intake has been high in most of our foods. Just a bag of chips has, I didn't know this, but I looked at the other bag. I don't have chips all the time, but I was looking at a bag the other day because my friend was munching on some chips, and it had over 36 grams of sodium. And then sugar, it had sugar. How does sugar add up in a bag of chips? And that was just something that baffled me.
You really have to read labels on anything you buy. It is amazing what you'll see in there. One of the things that surprised the heck out of me was coffee creamers. One of the dairy has a lot of phosphorus in it. I like my coffee in the morning, and I use cream. Well, if you look at, so I thought, well, I can't use cream. So I looked at the labels, and the dairy creamers that you can buy, Coffee Mate, Creamer, all of those, they're loaded with unpronounceables, but phosphates and potassium phosphates. So I looked them up in the USDA, and it turns out heavy whipping cream, which is just fat, but it has no phosphorus or very little. It has very little potassium, and it is, from a person with failed kidneys point of view, it is the best choice. And you know what? It actually tastes the best too. I use 1 teaspoon in my coffee, and the amount of phosphorus or potassium I get is negligible.
There's a tip, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't get rid of all of the creamers, get the heavy whipping cream.
Yeah, it's tasty too.
Well, it is, because then when you froth it up, then it's like creamy, and
Oh yeah, I have it every day. Still,
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, because this has been such a wonderful discussion. But ladies and gentlemen, the point of this is not only to talk about your trials and tribulations in life, it's also about what can come out of it. I've heard several gurus talk about, turn your mess into a message, turn your story into something that the people want. There's somebody out there who wants to listen to what you have. Sue has took her story, her mess, and made it into a message. She's helping people eat healthy. And she's not only helping dialysis patients eat healthy, this book is for everybody. You just heard it. So the idea is, for those of you standing on the sidelines, what is it going to take for you to jump into the sea of entrepreneurship? What are you thinking? Are you still thinking what you can do? Are you still thinking, what do I have that I can share with the world? Well, look into your past. You have it. So any last words? How do people get in touch with you also?
Okay, I have a website, susanemeny.com, but I also have my main site is kidneydietcentral.com. And there they can find lots of information about the dialysis diet and whatever. susanemeny.com has all my links. Facebook, Dialysis Newbies, Kidney Diet Central. I think I covered it.
You got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have any questions? You have anything that you want to ask about kidneys or diet or anything? She's the expert. An engineering, a software engineer who's turned into an expert on food. You never know where you can take that little knowledge that you have and turn it into an expertise in any reason, any way you can. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out. Sue and I know each other from a group that we belong to, and she's always the one active person. It doesn't matter how old you are or what story you have. There's somebody out there who wants to hear it. Any last words? I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
I didn't mention the name of this book, and it's called The Dialysis Patient's Magic Recipe Cookbook. And I hope someone out there would really like to go check it out. You can find it on Amazon.
I appreciate that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll put the link to the book on the bottom on the show notes. But ladies and gentlemen, if you like our show, share, like, and subscribe to it. And go ahead and give us a few comments about what you liked, what you didn't like. We'll be back with another guest next week, and we'll see you on Munira's Musings. In the meantime, have a wonderful week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Munira's Musings. We hope that you found today's conversation inspiring and useful so that you can continue making progress towards mastering your own niche. Please tune in next week for another episode, and in the meantime, you can follow us on social media at Munira's Musings on Facebook and leave us a review wherever you're listening to podcasts. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.